1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? It's fine. Thank you. So my name is Paweł. I'm from Spartes, and I'm going to tell you about one code to rule them all, which essentially means that we can have the same code base for JIRA Cloud and JIRA Server plugins. And I'm going to tell you the story about one of our plugins. It's called Agile Cards. Do you know this plugin? Can you raise a hand if you know this plugin? Okay, some of you. So essentially the plugin is for printing cards, printing issues in a form of a card. So you can print issues directly from JIRA with any layout that you want to, stick them into the physical board, and then take a photo, put this photo again into the JIRA, and your JIRA status of your issues will be updated according to the physical board. And this is the plugin that we have for JIRA Server and JIRA Cloud. So let's start with the agenda. First, a little bit of history, because our current solution sort of didn't happen overnight. It was an iterative process. Then I will tell you about the architecture, about our own version of Connect plugin, because we had to implement similar features that are in a Connect for JIRA Server, and then pros and cons of this solution. So let's start with a history. So we had a plugin for JIRA Server, and essentially this plugin created cards, printed cards in a form of a PDF file, and it was all in Java code. And then when AtlasCamp Connect started, then we created a plugin, Agile Cards plugin for JIRA Cloud. And in this plugin, those cards were created using JS, HTML, and CSS, so essentially front-end technologies. And it was a thing that we wanted to do for JIRA Server for a long time, because creating those cards in HTML was a much better comparing to the Java, because it solved many of our problems, like, for example, rendering different languages, different layouts, etc. So what did we do? And it was like the critical moment for us. We took the code from the JIRA Cloud and just used it inside server, just one-to-one. We just moved and used the same code base for both places. And it worked great for us, but one thing was missing. We had a photo scanning algorithm that I told you already, and this photo scanning algorithm was in Java. And for JIRA Server plugin, it wasn't a problem, but for JIRA Cloud plugin, it was quite a big problem, because we didn't want to have it on the cloud, because it creates a lot of problems, because you have to take into account security problems, queuing, transfers, storage, etc. So we thought that we could rewrite it in JavaScript, and then we heard that it's just a stupid idea, because you know, photo scanning algorithm in JavaScript, it's not that you can hear every day about that, and many people tell us that it's just it's not the best idea, and we essentially killing this feature. But our team thought that we can do that, and we actually did that. And like the first iteration wasn't that good. The times comparing to the Java was much bigger, except in Firefox when it was comparable. For some reason in Firefox it worked great from the beginning. And one of our founders told us that he gave us a task, and he told us that we have 1 week to make it working, and that he told us that, okay, this is my smartphone, and you have to go below 10 seconds on this smartphone, and then we can tell that, okay, it's working. And we started with a times for like 30 or 40 seconds, something about that. And after 1 week of refactoring, we actually dropped below 10 seconds. It was 9.5, so still it was quite remarkable. And actually we moved this inside web worker, so it wasn't blocking the UI. And I believe it was a great achievement, and actually at that time we had similar features for JIRA Cloud and for JIRA Server. So, architecture of this whole solution. We have one Maven project, and in this one Maven project we have 3 modules. The first one is JIRA Server plugin. It's a standard P2 plugin. The second one is JIRA Cloud plugin. It's actually a Java Spring application. It creates a WAR file and we just upload it into the cloud server. And finally, this is like the most important thing here, it's our front-end code. During the build process, this front-end code is actually copied into JIRA Server module and JIRA Cloud module. So we have the same code base for front-end code in both places. So this is the architecture of our cloud plugin, and it's a fairly typical Connect plugin. So we have our Agile Cards application. It serves some static files and exposes some REST APIs. And inside Connect iframe, we show our front-end code. But it gets interesting for JIRA Server because we sort of emulate it for JIRA Server, and we have our P2 plugin. And some server serves HTML template, and inside this template we have just div element. It's almost empty, but inside this div element we create an iframe, and it just iframe from Agile Cards. It's created by our own plugin, and inside this iframe we show our front-end code. So look at the similarities. We have AC front-end code inside Connect iframe, and in JIRA Server we create an iframe and show our front-end code there. So it's like, let's say it's implementing Connect for JIRA Server. And yes, we had to implement our own version of Connect. So some of the code works outside an iframe, and some of the code works inside an iframe. And outside an iframe we have a showView method. It's a global JavaScript method that creates an iframe. So we pass some DOM element inside this method, and iframe is created inside this DOM element. We resize the iframe. It's exactly like for JIRA Connect. When the content grows, we also make the iframe bigger. And we set some URL on this iframe. And among many parameters, the AC-view is the most important here, because it says to our plugin which view should be showed inside this iframe. So inside an iframe, we have a wrapper for AP library, because in Connect there is an AP library that gives you some functionalities, and we have to emulate them for JIRA Server, implement them from scratch. So first of all is JIRA requests. We use ap.request on Connect, but inside this wrapper we have to change the implementation for just standard Ajax calls for JIRA Server. Messages. We actually go to the parent for this iframe, and use AJS library that is available for JIRA. And current location. So we just, again, go to the parent and get location. So how the rendering of the view looks like for JIRA Server. First of all, we have a servlet. Our plugin serves an HTML template. Inside this HTML template, we invoke this showView method, I already told you. Then on this iframe, we set a URL, but we have different index.html for server and for cloud. And this is because of many reasons, but the most important is that, for example, we set a global flag if we are inside JIRA Server or inside JIRA Cloud. And also, what's important here is that we only use index.html. We don't have any more HTML files. We use the AC-view parameter to show the final view. So we don't have, for example, when we show settings, we don't have settings.html. It's still index.html, but inside our JavaScript code, we just render the correct view based on this AC view parameter. And when we have this parameter, we can show the final view. And this is how it looks like for a JIRA server. So actually, these agile card settings that you can see here is inside the iframe. And still, it's JIRA server. And for end user, it's transparent. It looks like part of the JIRA. End user doesn't have an idea that it's an iframe, and we show the code inside an iframe. And pros and cons of these solutions. So, the biggest one, we have the same code base for JIRA server and JIRA Cloud plugins. It's not 100% the same, but it's something about 80%. So I think it's still a huge win, because we don't have to maintain two code bases. It's mainly the same code base for both places. We have no interference with JIRA front-end code and with other plugins. And this is very important because we used to have many bugs where, for example, our front-end code interfered with some JIRA code or with other plugin, and it created many bugs that was hard to spot. We had to sometimes, when we got a support code, we had to recreate the user's environment, and then we somehow have to find that, okay, our plugin doesn't like some other plugin. They change the same JavaScript global objects, or they are changing the same DOM element, and it's like non-existent in this solution because we are inside an iframe. We are separated. And we can use any hipster framework that we want to, because we are inside an iframe, and we can use whatever we want to. We are completely separated. There are some cons, of course, because build process is a little bit more complicated, because you have to copy these front-end files and move them to other modules. And also during development, you need file watchers, which is, well, it's one-time setup, but still it's some overhead. Some connect functionalities have to be implemented for JIRA server plugin. It's also a one-time problem, but still it has to be implemented. So it's at the beginning of a project, it's a problem because yeah, you have to write some additional code. And also your plugin needs to live inside an iframe, and this can cause some additional problems. For example, when we use Angular.js framework, there is an add-on for Chrome called Butterang, and this add-on actually adds some additional functionalities to developer tools for Chrome. And when this code is inside an iframe, it just doesn't work for some reason. So we have to remember that sometimes living inside an iframe is not the best idea. And plugin has to be written in JavaScript. Actually, I'm a front-end developer, so it's not a problem for me. Actually, I like writing JavaScript, but I believe some people just want to use Java. And in this solution, it's just not an option. You have to write everything in JavaScript for this to work. And do you have some questions?
Yeah. Like, if you even try to have the same base code in Java, or you like make a try and failed?
No.
From the beginning, you just started to.
We started with this solution from the beginning because we wanted to create cards in JavaScript. Like it was an idea from the start, and then sort of iteratively we came up with an idea that we can do that for both places. Yes. Okay, thank you very much.